Yeah, good afternoon everyone. We'll start with this statistics part, right? The basics of statistics. And from this one, we will study about three things here, I say three topics here. First one, today we will discuss about the basics of statistics. Then there are two topics, important one. One is measures of central tendency, where we will be studying about mean, median and mode, and one is called measures of dispersion, where we will be studying about range, quartile deviation, mean deviation, standard deviation and all, right? Why I am giving this differentiation is the total number of marks, or say expected number of marks from these three topics based on last 5 years or say 6 years examination papers, right? You can expect around 7 to 10 questions from this chapter. Basics, measures of central tendency and measures of dispersion, around 7 to 10 marks. If you see December 2014 question, they had given 9 questions from these 3 units here. 9 questions, exactly 9 questions from these 3 topics here. Basics, measures of central tendency and measures of dispersion. So this becomes very important chapter, right? And not that difficult. Not that difficult. So let me start with the basics. We'll know what and all things to be studied under this basics of statistics, right? We'll start with the meaning of this one, statistic, the meaning, the origin, right? Different concepts under this term statistics, right? Fine. So if I have to start from the origin of the word statistics, right? Where did this word come from? The origin of statistics was from a Latin word. Latin word was, right? Statistics was derived from a Latin word status, right? Then one more word called Italian word statista, means statistics was derived from the Latin word status, Italian word statista, German word statistic, right? And one last French word is statistic, pronounced as statistic only, right? So this is the origin of the word statistics, derived from the Latin word status, Italian word statista, German word statistic, French word statistic, right? The meaning of all in general sense, or say in common, would be the collection, right? The collection of the data, right? The meaning of all the terms, if you take collectively in a broader sense, it will be like collection of the data. Basically, I have given this origin just because they might ask you a theoretical question on this. The word statistics is derived from the Italian word dash what? 4 options: status, statista, statistic and statistic. The correct answer would be statista, right? The correct answer would be statista. So just because in case they ask you the questions relating to this one, you can answer, right? The origin. After this one, if I have to define the meaning of, or define the term statistics, the definition, the simplest of definition of statistics would be like the collection of information from the data. Statistics in the simplest terms can be defined as the collection of information from the data, or say the gathering of information from the data, right? This is the simplest definition of statistics you can see, right? Here comes the two important terms here. One is data, the another is information. Right? Data and information, we have to know the meaning of data as well as information. We'll see what is data and what is information, what are the differences between them. Right? Have you completed this one? Fine. Now what is data and what is information? Data. Data is nothing but the facts which are raw, which are not processed. Raw facts or figures. Raw facts or figures will be called as what? Data. One more important thing relating to data would be, it does not have any meaning. Does it have any meaning? It does not have any meaning. It is meaningless. It is meaningless. If I have to give the examples for data, what will be the examples of data? Say for example 25, right? Mr. X, right? 25, Mr. X, then marks and all, right? Say 18. If I give you these terms here, these numbers or these letters, or say these numbers or say these words, can you make out some meaning? There is no meaning for this one. 25 is a number, a data. Mr. X is a name, one data again. Marks is one characteristics, right? One attribute. 18 another number. Can you make out any information from this one? Can you find out some meaning in this one? No. It is what? Unprocessed. It is what? Raw. It is what? Raw facts or the figures. Getting doesn't have any meaning. But if I process this one, I can make out some information. The information can be like 18-year-old Mr. X has scored 25 marks. Right? 18-year-old Mr. X has scored 25 marks. This can be a information. Getting it? This can be a information. This is a very raw example for data and information. Getting, just to make you understand. Right? It does not have any meaning, but it has meaning. So what will be information? It will be processed data. It's called what? Information. And this information is what? Meaningful. It has meaning. Meaningful. An example, you can say the same thing. Mr. X, who is 18 years old, has scored 25 marks. Let me write one more figure here, say statistics. So I can say here, Mr. X, who is 18 years old, has scored 25 marks in statistics. So this is a meaningful statement. This is called information, right? Whereas these 5 different facts or figures are called simply data, not the information. Got the differentiation between data and information? Yes? Fine. Please copy down. Have you completed? Done? Done? Copy it fast. Down. First 2 statements, done? Now we have to study something more about the data, the different types of data, how the data can be collected, what are the different methods of collecting the data and all, right? So data can be broadly classified as categorical data and numerical data. Categorical data and numerical data. Categorical data basically measures what? Qualitative aspect, whereas numerical data measures what? Quantitative aspect, right? This is measuring quantitative aspect and this measures qualitative aspect, right? Under categorical there is further sub-classification or say subdivision called as nominal data and ordinal data. Nominal and ordinal. Similarly, under numerical data, further sub-classification would be discrete data and continuous data, right? Discrete data and continuous data. Now see here. Now categorical data measures qualitative aspect, numerical data measures quantitative aspect. Now there are further sub-classifications as nominal and ordinal under categorical data, discrete and continuous under numerical data. What is the meaning of nominal, ordinal, discrete and continuous data we will see now. Right? What is nominal data? The data which does not have any specific order. There is no specific order. Right? The data which does not have any specific order is what? Nominal data. Whereas ordinal data is such data where there is some specific order. Now what is this specific order? No specific order. We will see by the help of one example. Right? Now let me ask you two questions, right? I say whenever you fill any form, you'll have to fill up this one, right? Gender, this is, right? Whenever you fill up any examination or say any form, you'll find this information here, male or female, right? Now what is this? Can you say this one is ordinal data or nominal data? First see the next example also. Okay, the next question would be like, this is a question, right? Say for these are the options here: excellent, good, average, poor, right? This is having some order. Getting it? If it is excellent, it is in the topmost order, topmost rank, right? If it is poor, it is in the least rank, as a bottommost rank. It is following some order here. But here, it doesn't follow any order. Either male, tick on male, either female, tick on female, right? There is no specific order in case of nominal data, but there is some specific order in case of cardinal. Say there is no specific order in case of nominal data, there is some specific order in case of ordinal data, both of which is measuring what? Qualitative aspect. Is there any quantitative aspect in this? No. Both of these are measuring the nominal aspect or say qualitative aspect, both nominal as well as ordinal data here. Just remember, when there is a specific order to be maintained, then the data will be called as ordinary or say ordinal data. Say for example, you have to rank from 1 to 10, right? Say you might see the records or say you all might know the records of like best players, best sports person, right? From 1 to 10. Getting it? What that type of data is called? Number 1, say any player's name. Number 2, any player's name. Number 3, up to 10. This data is called what? Ordinal data. Because it is following some rank, some order here. Getting it? Similarly, this example is what? Okay. Do you know to speak English? Yes? No? Right? This question is related, this data, yes or no, is related to what? Nominal data. Doesn't have any specific order. Getting it? Got the meaning of nominal and ordinal data. Right? What is the opposite of ordinal? Opposite of ordinal, you must have studied in economics. Cardinal. Right? Ordinal is qualitative, cardinal is quantitative. In other words, this cardinal can be also said as numerical data. Now we'll come to see what is numerical data, what is discrete, what is continuous data here. Right? By the way, what is the answer for this one? Is it poor? By the way, what is the answer for this one? Is it poor? Is it average? Is it good? Is it excellent? Good? Fine. Thank you. Now let's see the distinguishing, I said the difference between discrete and continuous data here. Discrete data, we can say discrete variable. Continuous data, continuous variable, the same thing, right? Discrete data is such type of data which can be counted. Which can be counted. Say, number of students in a classroom. Right? This is what? Discrete data. Right? Number of accidents in a month. What? Discrete data. Because it can be counted. Right? And one more thing you can remember under discrete data, it does not take the fractional value. It does not take the fractional value. If I ask, what is the number of students in this classroom, can I say 6.5? No, right? It is in decimal, it is not in decimal number, right? It is only an integer. It can take only the form of integer, not the fractional value here. Right? Examples you can write down, number of students in a classroom, number of accidents in a year, right? Different examples which can be counted, right? Now, when we come to continuous data, just opposite of discrete data is what continuous data means. Counted. Discrete data can be counted, but this continuous data can be measured. Quantity as a continuous data can be measured. Say for example, of course age, height, weight, height of a person. What is this? Discrete data or continuous data? Height of a person is what? Continuous data, because it can be measured. Can you count the height? You can't count the height. Can you count the weight? No. Weight, height are all measured. It is not counted. Getting it? So this is what? Continuous data. And one more important thing, it can also take fractional value. It cannot take fractional value, it can take what? Fractional value. Means if I ask the weight of a person, he can say 57.5 kg also, right? It can take the place of us, it can take the form of some fractional value also. Getting it? Right? So these are the examples of discrete and continuous data respectively. Similarly, this age. Age of a person. Is it discrete data or continuous data? Discrete or continuous? Can you count the age or can you measure the age? Does this age take fractional value? Does it take fractional value or not? Yes, if I ask someone's age, they can say 21 years, right? The another way, 21 years, 360 days also, right? I say 21 and a half years old. Getting it? So it can take the form of what? Decimal number as a fractional value. So age of a person is considered as continuous data. Getting the difference here? Right? So is it clear? Categorical data, numerical, then nominal, ordinal, discrete and continuous data. Is there any doubt here? Any doubt? Fine. Now, this term statistics is defined in two sense. One is singular sense and the next one is plural sense. What is statistics in singular sense? What is statistics in plural sense? Right? Statistics in singular sense means nothing but the methods and techniques. Methods and techniques for collecting, presenting, summarizing and interpreting the data. So in singular sense, statistics is nothing but the application of the methods and techniques for collecting, presenting, summarizing and interpreting the numerical data, or say simply the data. Right? It is the definition of statistics in singular sense. Whereas in plural sense, statistics is nothing but the measure of numerical facts. Numerical facts. In statistics, or say in plural sense, statistics is nothing but the measure of numerical facts. Say for example, data related to income, data related to expenditure, right, etc. These are what? These are the examples of what? Statistics in plural sense. Data related to income, data related to expenditure. These all are what? Statistics in plural sense. Basically, you can remember these numerical facts here. The measure of numerical facts is called statistics in plural sense. Whereas the collection, presentation, summarizing and interpretation of the data is called statistics in singular sense. Right? Again, this can be one type of theoretical question under this topic here. In singular sense, statistics is 4 options. Getting it? Can select this one as the correct option. Then plural sense, numerical facts. The measure of numerical facts is called what? Plurals, as statistics in plural sense. Then fine. Have you copied this one? Now, after this you can know some importance of statistics. Why this statistics is very important here? Importance of statistics. What is the usage of this statistics? Why it is very much essential, very much important here? This statistics is very much important because it is used in every area. The scope of statistics is very huge. Scope is very huge. This statistics can be used in every field. Say in service industry, right? It can be used in commerce. It can be used in economics, right? It can be used in business management. It can be used for politicians, or say it can be used in politics, right? It can be used in the agricultural field also. So there are number of usage of this statistics. Scope is very large, so it is very important. It is important in service industry, commerce, economics, business management, politics, agriculture and different fields and other different fields, right? So statistics plays a very vital role in our daily life nowadays, right? It's very, very vital thing nowadays. Getting it? Right? Though there are many importance for this statistics, there are some limitations also. There is nothing which has got only advantages. Right? Whichever thing has got advantage, there is some disadvantage also. Right? Where there is advantage, there is disadvantage also. Right? Where there are some importances, there are some limitations also. Right? What are the limitations of statistics? Limitations of statistics, number one, it measures only quantitative aspect. It measures only quantitative aspect, means what? It ignores qualitative aspect. It ignores qualitative aspect is one of the limitation of statistics here. And do you think whatever decisions are made based on the statistical calculations are all true? These statistical decisions made based on the statistical calculations are true only on average. They are not exactly true. They are true only on average. They are not 100% correct. Right? For example, weather forecasting we make. Tomorrow it will rain. How much percentage is the certainty that tomorrow will rain? Or say tomorrow it will rain. Right? It may rain, but there is no 100% certainty. So, statistical calculations may be true only on average, not 100%. Right? Then, limitations. Some more limitations if I have to say. This statistical analysis has to be made by some experts. Statistical analysis can be made only by the experts. Right? It is not meant for the normal layman. Right? It cannot be studied properly by the normal layman. We require experts to analyze and interpret the statistical data. Right? Next thing, since experts are utilized to read or say analyze the data, so there is more chances of misuse of data. There is more chance of misuse of data. Getting it? This can be said as some limitations of statistics. Right? Then, fine. After this one, we will come to know how the data can be collected here. Or say what are the different methods of collecting the data. Or say what are the different sources of data. Before going for the different sources of data, there are two more different types of data here. Temporal data and spatial data. Just know the meaning for this one, because these words came in the recent examination. Temporal data and spatial data. Data in relation to time. Data in relation to time is called temporal data. Whereas data in relation to space is called space or say area is called what? Spatial data. Getting it? Data in relation to time is temporal data, whereas data in relation to space or say the geographical area will be called as spatial data. Getting it? What we see in the maps, right? We see the maps, right? That maps is an example for what? Spatial data. We see KFC here, McD here, Pizza Hut here, some banks here, right? We see some maps here. Getting it? So this is an example of what? Spatial data in relation to the space or the geographical area. Right? And when the data is classified in relation to time, it is called what? Temporal data. Getting it? Temporal data. Means at what time you have to do what work. At what time you have to do what work. Such type of data is what? Temporal data, based on time. Getting? Just know the meaning of these two words here. Temporal data and spatial data here. Now let's come to different sources of data here. There are two sources of data, right? One is primary source, and if the data is collected from primary source, it is called primary data. And there is another secondary source, and if the data is collected from secondary source, it is called secondary data here. Now what is primary data, what is secondary data? I have already defined here. Data collected from primary source is called primary data, or say data collected for the first time. It's called what? Primary data. Whereas data collected from the secondary source is called secondary data, or say data collected for the second time or the subsequent time is called what? Secondary data here. Right? What are the different methods of collecting primary data? Methods of collecting primary data will be interview method, right? Mailed questionnaire method, observation method. These are few methods of gathering primary data, right? Whereas some methods of collecting secondary data will be international sources. These are some secondary sources. International sources means what? Like World Health Organization, some data is collected from World Health Organization, some data is collected from World Bank, right? These are some examples of secondary data. The data collected from World Health Organization, World Bank and all. Next one, government sources. Government sources. Like how can we get the data from the government? Government sources means what? Like information collected from Ministry of Education. Information collected from Ministry of Education, etc. Right? This can be called as government sources of collecting secondary data here. Right? Some more examples will be unpublished sources. Unpublished sources of institutions. If unpublished sources of institutions is called as secondary data, what will be the published source? Published source will be primary data itself. Getting unpublished, which is not published. Unpublished sources of institutions will be called as secondary data. Right? Now what is this interview method, mailed questionnaire method and observation method? We will see here. What is interview basically? Interview is nothing but what? Face-to-face interaction between two people. Right? Who are those two people? One who will be answering the question, one who will be asking the question. Right? One who is asking the question will be called as investigator. Whereas one who is answering the question will be called as respondent. Getting it? Respondent. The investigator in other words can also be said as correspondent. Getting it? Correspondent. And the person who answers is called respondent. Getting it? So interview is a face-to-face interaction between the investigator and the respondent. Right? There are different types of interview here. Personal interview, indirect interview, and also called as telephonic interview. Personal interview, indirect interview, telephonic interview. What is this personal interview? Personal interview is done when the respondent can be accessed directly. When the person from whom the information is to be collected can be accessed directly, is available directly. Right? You can directly go and meet the required person and collect the information. Right? Here will be personal interview. Some examples say, in case of natural calamities, like say earthquake, landslides and all, which type of interview is used? The answer should be personal interview. Getting it? We can answer personal interview as the correct answer. Right? So in case of natural calamities, you might get the questions like this in the examination. Some examples, and in such examples or in such case, which type of interview will be more beneficial, will be more effective. Right? Some options will be given. You have to choose the correct answer here. So in case the question is like, in case of natural calamities, which of the following method is useful for collecting primary data? The answer would be personal interview. Right? Now if in case of natural calamity personal interview is used, what is this indirect interview then? Right? Just opposite. This personal interview can also be said as direct interview. Indirect interview is used in such a case where the respondents are not available directly. Right? So some example related to indirect interview will be like in case of rail accidents. In case of rail accidents, which type of interview will you use here? Can you find the person directly after the rail accident? We don't know where the person will be, right? In hospital or say in some other places, we don't know. But we can get the information on this rail accident. How? We can find some persons who might have seen the accident, right? We might get some person who have seen this accident and we can get the required information. This will be called as indirect interview. Not directly accessed, say the investigator cannot access the respondent directly. In such case, we can use indirect interview, right? Now, what is this telephonic interview? Telephone, right? Very simple. Telephonic interview is used when the medium of communication is what? Telephone. When the medium of communication is what? Telephone. In this case, what? The communication speed is the fastest, right? It is the fastest method of interview. Fastest method of interview. The reply and the questions will be communicated very fast. Getting it? You will be getting the response of your questions very fast in case of telephonic interview. And it is less costly also, right? So which of the following is less costly and more efficient type of interview? Answer should be telephonic interview, right? Then about these methods of interview or the different types of interview, right? Fine. Let's come to this mailed questionnaire method. What is this mailed questionnaire method? This mailed questionnaire method is used when you want large number of informations, right? When you want large number of informations, you will be sending a mail to each of the respondents, to different respondents, including different questions, variety of questions, right? You want different questions to be answered. This mail will be received by the respondent and he will try to answer as much as he can, right? Many questions. But what the problem would be in this case, the possibility of responses would be less. There is less possibility of getting the responses or say proper responses. However, the largest number of informations can be gathered through mailed questionnaire method. Can you gather more or say required number of informations through personal interview? No. Max to max, a person can sit with you and give information for half an hour or 1 hour, max to max, right? You can't get every information required in this half an hour or say 1 hour. Getting it? But if you send the mail which contains different informations or different questions, you can get maximum number of responses. However, the possibility of responses is less. People may ignore your questions, right? So this is one limitation. What about observation? Observation is also one of the way of collecting the primary data. You observe with your eyes, you observe your surroundings and gather some information, right? You use your senses. You use your senses to gather the data from the primary sources, that is observing, right? Observing through your senses. You see your surroundings, you see your localities around you and you find out some informations. And this method of collecting the information will be called as observation. You are observing yourself and gathering some information, right? So this will be called as observation method of collecting primary data. Done? And these are self-explanatory here. If you are collecting information from the international sources like World Health Organization, World Bank, if you are gathering some information, that will be called as what? Secondary data. Similarly, if you are gathering some information from the government sources like Ministry of Education, Ministry of Law and different other government sources, then it will be called as secondary data. Similarly, if you are gathering any data from the unpublished sources of different institutions or organizations, it will be called as what? Secondary data. Then, right? Fine. All these are important just in case they ask you some theoretical questions, and they have asked a number of times in the past question papers, right? Fine. We'll move ahead with some new different topics here. Break. Are you asking me? some more time. We'll go for some break. Now, what more we can study under this topic here? I told statistics is nothing but collecting as a collection of data, presentation of data, then summarizing, analyzing and interpretation of the data, right? We saw how the data can be collected, primary data, primary sources, secondary data, secondary sources and all. Now the next topic is how to present the data. What is the meaning of presentation of the data, right? Presentation of the data. Presentation of the data. How can you present the data here, right? There are different methods of presenting the data. One is textual presentation. Next one, tabular presentation. Third one, graphical presentation. Textual presentation of the data, tabular presentation of the data, graphical presentation of the data, right? Basically this presentation of data is nothing but organization or say classification of the data. Organization or say classification of the data, right? This presentation of the data. And there are three different ways of presenting the data: textual, tabular and graphical. Now what is this textual presentation of the data? Text using paragraphs, right? You are presenting the data in the form of paragraphs. It is called what? Textual presentation. Say for example, I am going to tell you one paragraph. Say for example, in 2014, in December attempt, right, the number of pass out students of CPT were this much percentage. In May, in November, in June 2014 attempt, the number of pass out students for CPT were this much percentage, and all. This will, Simon?
Paris, is he studying there?
Sorry?
Paris.
Now, let's resume here. Textual means the presenting as a presentation of the data with the help of some paragraphs, right? I gave one example also. Now, what is this tabular presentation of data? Tabular presentation of data. Tabular presentation of the data means using tables to present the data, right? Using tables. Now, here we have to know as some theoretical question can be asked from this table here. One theoretical question can be, how many parts are there in table? How many parts are there in a table? Right? We can say 4 parts. Of course there are 5, one is not mandatory. Right? 4 parts, one is caption. You can write 5 also. Let me write here 5 only. You can say one as title, caption, box head, body and stub. There are some footnotes also, so that I am not writing as the part, that is away, I say that is not a part of the table, that is below the table, footnotes and all, right? So if they ask you how many parts are there in table, source and all comes beneath the table, right? All comes under the table. Getting it? Title, caption, box head, body and stub, right? 5 parts of a table. Title, there is no requirement of any explanation for title. Title means the title of the table, right? Title of the table. Now better I will write one example. I will draw one table and I will explain you what are all these terms here? Title, box head, stub, caption and all. Right? Let me draw an example here. So this is one example here. I have drawn a table here. The title of the table is Literacy of Bangalore and Chennai. Literacy rate of Bangalore and Chennai. So literacy percentage of Bangalore and Chennai is the title here. Right? This is called title here. Title. Now, what is caption? Caption means the upper part of the table. This whole is a table. The upper part of the table which describes the columns. And if there is any sub-columns, then sub-columns also. Right? Caption is nothing but the uppermost part of the table. Upper part of the table which represents or describes columns and sub-columns. Right? This is what? This is caption. All these are what? Caption. Getting it? Which represents or say describes what? The columns here. What is this box head? Box head is the entire upper part of the table. This entire upper part of the table. This part is called what? Box head. The entire upper part of the table is called what? Box head. What is this body? Body is the main part of the table. This is the main part of the table here. This is what? Body. Right? Whereas, what is stub here? Stub is the leftmost part of the table which describes the rows here. So, stub is what? The leftmost part of the table which describes the rows. Caption is the upper part of the table which describes the columns and sub-columns. Box head is the entire upper part of the table and body is the main part of the table. Title is what? Self-explanatory, which is your literacy percentage of Bangalore and Chennai. Then, any doubts here? Right? So there are, you can say 5 parts of a table and these are the 5 parts. Then, fine. So this is what? The tabular presentation of the data. Tabular presentation of the data means what? Using the tables to organize or say classify the data, nothing but presenting the data, right? There is one more types of presentation of the data. What was that? Graphical presentation of the data. Graphical presentation of the data means also called as, or say it is also called as diagrammatic presentation of the data. Graphical or diagrammatic means the same thing. Under this one, we have to know about line diagram, or say there are different types of graphical representation of the data. Line diagram, which is also called not histogram, historiogram, right? It is also called as line diagram or say historiogram. The next one is bar diagram, and the third one is pie chart or say pie diagram. It is also called as angular diagram. Line diagram or histogram or say bar diagram and pie chart are also called as angular diagram. These are the different ways of presenting the data graphically or say diagrammatically. Now what is this line diagram or say histogram, bar diagram, pie chart and all? We will come to know, right? Line diagram here. It is the simplest method of representing a data graphically, right? Say for example, I am directly making one graph. Before this graph there was one information. There was some information given to you. The information was the number of, or say the years and the sales or say the revenue. This was the information given here. In 2010, the sales were 30 lakhs. In 2010, the sales were 30 lakhs. In 2011, the sales were 10 lakhs. In 2012, the sales were 40 lakhs. These were the information given here. And you have to present this information with the help of a line diagram. Then how the line diagram will be looking like? It will look like, means you have to do nothing but join these points here. Right? This becomes what? A line diagram, also called as histogram. Then it is not difficult at all. This is a line diagram here. Then this is one of the graphical presentation of the data. Similarly, what is this bar diagram? Bar diagram. Bars. Right? Bar diagram. We will see what is this bar diagram now. Now, in questions, in examinations, you won't be asked to draw bar diagram, pie chart, bar diagram and all. No. What they can give, we will see when we do some questions here. They might give you some diagrams and you have to get some information from the given diagram. They won't ask you to prepare a diagram, but they will ask you to find out or say collect some information from the given bar diagram or say any chart here. Say what is bar diagram? There are different types of bar diagram, like simple bar diagram, which is also called as single bar diagram. Next one, subdivided bar diagram. And multiple bar diagram. This can be few types of bar diagram here. Percentage also you can say, percentage bar diagram. Percentage and subdivided are somewhat interrelated only. The subdivided are in terms of numbers. Percentage bar diagram will be the similar type, but in case of us in terms of percentage only, right? Nevertheless, you can say these are the types of bar diagram here. Now, I'll just give you the layout or say how these bar diagrams will look like, right? How these bar diagrams will look like. I'll just give you the layout, right? Not difficult at all. You can practice the questions from your study mat. Getting it? I'll just give you the way or say the layout how this bar diagram will look like. Simple bar diagram will look like something As it will look something like this. Simple bar diagram. Right? Say this is 2010, 2011, 2012. And these are some data here. Right? 10, 20, 30, 35. Say this is sales again in lakhs. In lakhs. So in 2010 the sales were 20 lakhs. In 2011 the sales were 30 lakhs. In 2012 the sales were 35 lakhs. Right? This is what simple bar diagram. In simple bar diagram. Right? Now there can be the case of subdivided bar diagram also. Now what is this subdivided bar diagram? I'll just give you the layout now. Subdivided bar diagram means question something like this. Say that two number of years here, 2010 and 2011. In 2010 the expenses made in clothes, the expenses made in food, right, are 20,000, 15,000 here. Here 25,000 and 20,000 here. How to present this data in subdivided bar diagram? Means you have to first find out the total here for each year. Total for 2008, total for 2010 expenditure is 35,000. So let me draw here 10, 20, 30, 40. So 35 is around this point. This will be the total year for 2010. And total for 2011 is 45,000. So 45,000 is somewhat somewhere here 2011. Now there is further sub-classification between clothes and food. Clothes were 20,000. So 10, 20. 20,000 is this one is clothes, right? And the remaining is food. So this one is cloth and this one is food, right? Similarly for 2011, clothes 25,000 around this point and the remaining is food. So this point is cloth and this is what? Food. This is what? This is subdivided bar diagram. Getting it? Subdivided bar diagram. The same question can be presented in multiple bar diagram also. Multiple bar diagram. Say in 2010, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. In 2010, expenditure in clothes were 20,000. So this is an expenditure in clothes here, 20,000, and expenditure in food were 15,000. So 15,000 around this figure. This is the expenses for 2010 year. Right? Similarly for 2011, the clothes expenses in clothes were 25,000. Expenses in clothes were 25,000 and expenses in food were 20,000. So this is what? An example of what? Multiple bar diagram. Right? Multiple bar diagram. The last one is percentage bar diagram, nothing but subdivided bar diagram in terms of percentage. Right? The total will be 100% and here you have to represent this y-axis by as in terms of percentage only. Getting it? Nothing but percentage bar diagram it will be. If you convert this one in terms of percentage. Then the different types of bar diagram, right? We will see how the questions can be asked from this part here, bar diagram, when we come for some questions later on. Getting it? Right? For now, is there any doubt? Now, there is one more representation of data by graphical method. What was that? Pie chart. That's a pie diagram or say angular diagram. What is that pie chart now? Again, they will not ask you to prepare pie chart or pie diagram in the examination. They will ask you to find out some degrees, some central angles it is called. Some central angles it is called. Look at here, what is meant by pie chart? Circle, right? pie diagram or say angular representation, right? Angular representation. Now, why this pie chart is drawn? What is the significance of this pie chart? Now, this pie chart is considered is the best method of presenting the data in case you have to find the different sectors of expenditure. Different sectors. This sector, say it is for foodstuffs, expenditure in foodstuff, expenditure in health services, expenditure in education services, and so on, right? This pie chart is used to allocate the expenses or any items in different sectors. Getting it? In different sectors. Right? Pie chart is used to allocate the expenses or any other items in different sectors. Right? This is the best way in such case, as a best way of presenting the data in such case. What will be the questions, or so what will be the type of questions here? You have to find the central angles for food, central angles for clothes, central angles for health services, central angles for educational services. Getting it? Right. How to find out the central angles is a thing to know here. What will be the total degree or total angle in a circle? 360 degree. Right. If I say the expenses in healthcare services in a month were 50,000, clothes 20,000, food 25,000, and in educational field the expenses were 40,000. If I ask you to calculate the central angle for healthcare services, clothes, food stuff, and education, what will be the central angles? How to calculate the central angles? First step, you have to total the expenditure. You total, the result is 1,35,000. Central angle for healthcare services will be the expenses in healthcare service by total expenditure into 360 degree. This will be the central angle for healthcare services. What is the angle? 133 degree, round it off. Right? Similarly, you can find out for clothes, food, and educational field also. This is the only thing that you will be doing, as you have to do in case of pie chart. They will not ask you to prepare pie chart because there will be the uses of what? Compass, protractor, and all everything. Right? Not required. So done about this pie chart. Then, so this is all about collection of the data and presentation of the data. Right? The next thing that we have to know is the topic called something about frequency distribution. What is this frequency distribution here? Frequency distribution. And before knowing this frequency distribution, let's know something about one-dimensional diagram. We just studied some diagram, right? Bar diagram and all. We just studied some bar diagram, pie chart and all. Now, let me complete this topic also before going to frequency distribution. One-dimensional diagram, two-dimensional diagram, three-dimensional diagram. What is meant by all this? Dimensions means what? Side. One-dimensional diagram. Can you give me some example? One-dimensional. What about line diagram? There is only one dimension for this, only one side. Right? What about bar diagram? Bar diagram is also one-dimensional diagram. Now, bar diagram is also divided as vertical bar diagram and horizontal bar diagram. Getting it? This horizontal bar diagram is mostly used in case of qualitative data. Make a note. whereas vertical bar diagram is used for quantitative data. Getting it? This bar diagram is further subdivided into qualitative and quantitative. Say vertical and horizontal. Vertical bar diagram is used in case of quantitative data, whereas horizontal bar diagram is used for qualitative data. Done? Fine. What about the examples of two-dimensional data? As a two-dimensional diagram is square because it will have length and breadth, right? Both. Rectangle, parallelogram, right? Then what about circle? What about pie chart? Pie chart is also considered as two-dimensional diagram. Pie chart is also considered as two-dimensional diagram, right? With the help of some constructions that we have to do. This is called the radius, right? If you join this point, it will be called as diameter, right? One diameter is this one, another diameter will be this one. So this becomes the two dimensions of a diagram. So circle is also called as two-dimensional diagram. Please make a note here, right? Similarly, the three-dimensional diagram, some examples will be cube, cuboid and all, right? Cube, cuboid and all. This will be the examples of what? Three-dimensional figure. Getting it? Three dimensions figure. What about triangle? What about triangle? 3. Now 2 dimensions means there is length, there is breadth. 3 dimensions means there will be length, there will be breadth, there will be height also. Right? What about triangle? Triangle. So something like this is also one triangle, right? Right angled isosceles, right angle isosceles triangle. Right? What is this? One dimensional, two dimensional or three dimensional here? If I ask you to find the area of this one, area will be half into base into height. Right? The dimensions are base and height. So triangle is also called what? Two-dimensional diagram. Getting it? Two-dimensional diagram. Now let's come to know something about this topic, frequency distribution. When we did probability chapter, we did probability distribution. Remember, right? Probability of getting 0, 8 is 3 by 8. Probability of getting 1, 8 is 1 by 8. Something like this we did. That was called probability distribution. Right? Here it is what? Frequency distribution. Simple topic here. Before starting this one, we have to know what is frequency here. What is frequency? Number of repetitions of an observed value is called what? Frequency. Number of repetitions of an observed value is called frequency. Now what is this frequency distribution? Also before starting with this one, let me give an example for frequency here. If I ask you what is the frequency of the observed value 2? Frequency of the observed value 2 means the repetitions here. 5. The frequency of the observed value 2 is what? 5. Getting it? Now what is this frequency distribution here? Frequency distribution is defined as nothing but the tabular representation of the numerical data. Tabular representation of the numerical data. So if I have to find or say prepare one frequency distribution for this one, how can I prepare here? This is the observed value, this is the frequency here. Observed values are 1, 2 and 3. Frequency of 1 is 1, frequency of 2 is 5, frequency of 3 is 2. This becomes what? A frequency distribution table here. Getting it? This becomes what? A frequency distribution table. This is also called individual data. This is also called discrete data. This is also called individual data, and this is also called discrete data here. We'll come to see something more about these things later on. But just now, you can know frequency distribution is nothing but tabular. Why tabular? Because I have presented this one in table form, right? As a tabular form. So frequency distribution is nothing but the tabular representation of what? Numerical data. Numerical data. Why numerical? Because it makes usage of frequency numbers. So this frequency distribution is nothing but the tabular representation of what? Numerical data here. Then fine. Now there are different ways of representing this frequency distribution. Different ways of representing distribution as a frequency distribution. How we can represent this frequency distribution using the diagram, using the graph. There are different types of representing frequency distribution. Some of them are histogram, also called as area diagram. Next one, frequency polygon. Next one, ogives, right? Or it is also called cumulative frequency curve, right? These are the different methods of representing, also these are the different graphical methods of representing frequency distribution. Graphical methods of representing frequency distribution: histogram, frequency polygon, and ogive, or say ogive, different ways of pronouncing it, right? Ogive curve, or say ogives, right? Cumulative frequency curve, the another name of ogive curve. Getting it? Right? We'll come to know, as we'll learn about these three different graphical methods of representing frequency distribution, right? Let me complete these three topics, then we'll go for a break for 2 minutes or 5 minutes. Huh? 50? 1-5. Okay, we'll go for a break for 10 minutes. Right? Let me complete these three topics here. And then we'll come back and we'll solve some questions. Right? Based on what we have studied today. Right? Histogram. Now what is this histogram? What is this frequency polygon, ogive curve and all? Right? Histogram, it looks similar to what? Bar diagram. But there is some differences here. What is the difference here? Right? In case of bar diagram, these bars were separated. Right? They didn't touch each other. Right? But in case of histogram, the bars will touch each other. It will look something like this. Getting it? It will look something like this. What is the reason behind it? What is the reason behind bar diagram looking this way, histogram looking this way, all the bars being attached to each other? What is the reason? The reason is this bar diagram can be prepared only in case of exclusively grouped data. Exclusively grouped data, also called as continuous data. This histogram is as a histogram can be prepared only in the case of exclusively grouped data or say continuous data. What is continuous data? Continuous data means having class intervals whose lower limit or say whose upper limit of the first class interval is equal to the lower class of the subsequent class interval here. Say an example is this one. Class interval and the corresponding frequencies here. This is what? Exclusively grouped data. How to identify? The upper limit. This 0 is called lower limit. This 10 is called upper limit. 0 to 10 is called what? One class interval. Getting it? If I say the width of this class interval, what is the width of the class interval? Width of the class interval means upper class limit minus lower class limit will give you the width of the class interval. So width of the class interval in this case is 10. For this one also 10. How to identify this class interval? So this data is continuous data. You have to see the upper limit of the first class interval. You have to see the lower limit of the first class interval. If they are same, means it is what? Continuous data. Getting it? It is what? Continuous data. So if I say here, can I say this one as continuous data? 0 to 10, 11 to 20, 21 to 30, 31 to 40. Is this continuous data? This one continuous? No. See, you will be getting confused. You will be saying, as you will be thinking, yeah, there is class interval, so it is continuous data. No. Being as a having a class interval is not only the criteria for a data to be continuous data, right? For a data to be continuous data, the upper class of the first class interval should be equal to the lower class of the second class interval, which is not true here. The upper class of the first class interval is 10. The lower class, as the lower limit of the second class interval is 11. Both are not the same, so these are not called continuous data. In such case, histogram cannot be prepared. Histogram cannot be prepared in case of discrete data or say individual data. Right? Means what? Histogram can be prepared only in the case of continuous data, which is also called exclusively grouped data. Then, yes, histogram can be prepared only in case of continuous data here. Now let's see, I have given one example here, how can we prepare histogram here. Histogram. Class intervals will always be represented by x-axis here. 0, 10, 20, 30, 40. Right? Whereas the frequencies will be represented by y-axis here. 4, 8, 12, 16. How to plot this one? 0 to 10 it is 5. So 5 is somewhere here. 10 to 20, 7. 7 somewhere here. 10 to 20, 7. 20 to 30, 6. 20 to 30 is 6. Somewhere here. Right? And 30 to 40 is 10. 30 to 40 is 10. This is what? A histogram. Getting it? The frequency is 5 here, 7 here, 6 here, 10 here. This is what? Histogram. And we could prepare histogram just because the data given was continuous data. Getting it? So here comes the conclusion. Continuous data, as in case of continuous data, histogram can be prepared. And one more important conclusion is, histogram is used to find the following. To find the following: mean or median or mode or none of the above. Is very important question which has been asked number of times in the examination. right? See, this is a histogram. Which is the largest bar here? Which is the highest bar here? This one, 30 to 40. So what you have to do? You have to find the midpoint here. I say you have to draw these two corners here. I say join these two corners here. You have to draw these two corners here. Right? You have to draw these two corners here, and then we have to find this. We have to see this point here. This point will be called as mode. The conclusion is nothing but histogram is used to calculate mode of the data. Histogram is used to calculate mode of the data. Getting it? This is the way how mode is calculated using histogram. Getting it? This is the way that mode is calculated using histogram. In doubt? Yeah? Is there in doubt? Ask me.
Like we study from here we should do.
Not required. Two diagonals join the midpoint.
From here we should do.
No.
This side is not there, so do. Because the side is there from here to
Not required. Drop from there.
see.
Then this will be mode. So here comes the conclusion. Here mode is calculated by histogram. As a histogram is used to calculate what? Mode of the data here. Getting it? Fine. Now again one important thing here. The width of the class interval in each of the case was 10. The width of the class interval in each of the case was 10. What if the width of the class interval is not same or is not uniform? Is not uniform. Say 0 to 10, 10 to 30, 30 to 70, 70 to 110, 5, 7, 2, 10. Now can I prepare the histogram in the same manner here? I can't prepare the histogram in the same manner just because the length or say the width of the class interval is not uniform in all the cases here. So just remember, in case the width of the class interval are not same, we have to represent this y-axis by frequency density instead of frequency, right? When the class intervals were, the width of the class intervals were same, we represented this y-axis by what? By frequency. But when the length of, when the width of the class interval is not same, we will represent this y-axis by frequency density. So here again we have to know one more topic called frequency density. What is this frequency density? Right? What is this frequency density here? Frequency density. Frequency density is calculated by using the formula frequency of the class interval by length of the class interval. Length or width means the same thing. Your length of the class interval is 10, here also 10. Length or width means the same thing here. Right? So frequency density is calculated by using the formula frequency of the class interval by frequency as a length of the class interval. So if I have to find the length of as a frequency density of the class interval 0 to 10, what will be the frequency density of? 5, because the frequency of the class interval is 5 and the length here is 10. So 0.5. 0.5 will be the frequency density for the class interval 0 to 10. Similarly for 10 to 30, what will be the frequency density? 7 by, what is the length? Or say what is the width here? 30 minus 10, 20. So 7 by 20. 0.35. Done. Similarly for 30 to 70. What will be the frequency density here? 2 by 40. 2 by 40, how much? 0.05. Similarly for 70 to 110, what is the frequency density? 10 by 40. So 10 by 40 means 0.25. So the y-axis will be represented by these frequency densities, instead of frequency, and the frequency will, the histogram will look like the histogram will look like zero to 10. 0 to 10 the frequency density is 0.5. So 0 to 10 the frequency density is 0.5. Getting it? 10 to 30 the frequency density is 0.35. So 0.35 somewhere here. So 10 to 30. 10 to 30 frequency density is 0.35. Then 30 to 70 frequency density is 0.05. So 0.05 will be somewhere here. 30 to 70. And 70 to 110, 0.25. 70 to 110, 0.25 somewhere here. So this is how the frequency as a histogram will be prepared. This is how the frequency as a histogram will be prepared in case the width of the class interval are not uniform, are not same. Getting it? Any doubt here? Right? Only three important notes in case of histogram. It is prepared only in case of continuous data. It is used to find out mode, and in case of the frequency distribution, as in case the width of the class interval are not same, this y-axis is represented by frequency density instead of frequency, which is calculated by frequency of the class interval divided by length of the class interval. Done? Any doubt here? Fine? Done. Shall I clear this one? Yes? Like frequency density, there are two more small formulas called relative frequency and percentage frequency. Relative frequency is calculated by using the formula frequency of the class interval by total frequency. And percentage frequency is nothing but relative frequency expressed in terms of percentage. So I can write this one here, frequency of class interval by total frequency into 100. These are three important formulas which you can remember here in this basic topic here. Done. So the example that we did here just now, find out all this. Class interval and frequency are given to you. Find out frequency density of each class interval, find out relative frequency of each class interval, and find out percentage frequency of each class interval. Frequency density, relative frequency, and percentage frequency. Completed? What will be the frequency density here? 5 divided by 10. So 0.5. Yeah, 7 divided by 10. 0.7. Yeah, 6 divided by 10. 0.6. Yeah, 9 divided by 10. 0.9. This is frequency density. What about relative frequency? Frequency of the class interval divided by total frequency. Yeah, total frequency is represented by summation f or n, which is equal to 27, right? So relative frequency will be 5 divided by 27 here for the class interval 0 to 10. So 5 divided by 27 is how much? Write the decimal points here. Here this one 7 by 27, this one 6 by 27, this one 9 by 27 here. Getting it? If you find this sum of this relative frequency, see what is the sum? Sum you should get 1. Right? Round about 1. Some decimal point you can round it off. 0 point, same thing. Some round it off, you will get 1. Relative frequency. And percentage frequency, nothing but multiply this relative frequency by 100. Multiply this relative frequency by 100 in each case, you will be getting percentage frequency for each class interval, and the total here will be 100 percentage. Percentage frequency, the total will be 100 percentage. Yeah? Same thing, some round it off, you will get 100 percentage, right? Got the concept of frequency density, relative frequency and percentage frequency? Yes? Next was frequency polygon, right? Frequency polygon. Now frequency polygon, if you know histogram, frequency polygon is easy only. Nothing but a small change in histogram. The same data, if I want to draw histogram for this one, it will be like 0, 10, 20, 30, 40. Zero to 10, the frequency is 5. So 5 here. Right? 10 to 20, the frequency is 7. So 7 here. 30 to 40, the frequency is 6. 30 to 40, I say 10. 30 to 49. This is what? A histogram. Histogram. Now, how this frequency polygon is prepared here? This is, we are doing frequency polygon. And for frequency polygon, you have to first draw this histogram. After this one, what you have to do? You have to find out the midpoints of all these bars here. Midpoints. Getting it? You have to find the midpoints here also. And what you have to do? You have to join all these midpoints. You have to join all these midpoints. And you have to join all these midpoints using your ruler, your scale here. Your scale. You have to draw all these points using your scale here. Using your scale here. This will be called as frequency polygon. What is frequency polygon? This line which you have drawn with the help of your scale joining all these midpoints will be called as what? Frequency polygon. Getting it? Frequency polygon. Plotting it. Not plotting it. After drawing this histogram, I found out the midpoint here. Midpoint. This one midpoint. This bar midpoint. And joining all these midpoints. For here also midpoint. For here also midpoint. I will have to join all these midpoints with the help of scale. Whatever line I will get will be called as frequency polygon. Right? Again, there is one more figure called frequency curve. Right? There is a slight difference you can say between frequency polygon and frequency curve. If I draw this line with the help of scale, it will be called as frequency polygon. Whereas if I draw this line with free hand, it will be called as frequency curve. Right? Frequency curve are of different types, like bell-shaped curve, which we studied in normal distribution. Right? Then J-shaped curve. Then U-shaped curve, right? Then mixed curve. You can just remember different types of curve here. Getting it? Different types of frequency curve here. Right? Bell-shaped means something like this one, right? J-shaped means like this one. We will see this J-shaped. Right? U-shaped means this one. Just like we do draw in economics, this marginal cost curve and average cost curve and all. You will draw. You will see. You will learn in economics also. That will be U-shaped, right? And the mixed shape means the combination of two or more shapes, right? Two or more curves here. Then this is about what? Frequency polygon. Now there is one more thing left here. What is that? Ogive curve. Also you can say also this one as ogives. Ogive. Or say cumulative frequency curve. Do you know the meaning of cumulative frequency? This data, if I have to find out cumulative frequency, how to calculate? This will be 5 plus 7, 12 plus 6, 18 plus 9, 27. At the end, this one and this figure should be same. Right? This is cumulative frequency curve, also called as ogive curve or say ogive. Right? We'll come to know what is this ogive curve. Then break just after completion of this one. Ogive curve, right? There are two types. Ogive curve is of two types. One, less than ogive, and one, more than ogive. This is also one type of representing what? Frequency distribution. What is this less than ogive curve, more than ogive curve? We will come to know. Right? With the help of one example. So this is the data given here. What type of data is this? Individual data or discrete data or continuous data? Discrete data. This is discrete data given to you. The question is to construct ogive curve. Construct less than ogive curve and more than ogive curve here. Right. Let's see how we can draw it here. Means first of all I have to find out less than CF and more than CF. Less than CF is used to find out less than cumulative frequency curve or say less than ogive curve, and more than CF is used to find out or say construct more than ogive curve here. Right? What will be less than CF and more than CF? How to find out this one? Right? See here. Less than CF means what? I have to see what is the frequency of the numbers less than 3. Less than 3. What is the frequency? Less than 3. What is the frequency of the number less than 3? What is this 2? Frequency of 3. So what is the frequency of the number less than 3? This 2 is the frequency for 3. What is the frequency of the number less than 3? Less than 3. 0. This 5 is the frequency for the observed value 4. What is the frequency of the observed value less than 4? Less than 4 is 3, whose frequency is 2. So less than CF will be 2. What is the less than CF of the observed value 5? Observed value 5. Observed value 5, the less than 5 is 4 and 3, whose frequencies are 5 and 2 respectively, the sum of which is 7. Getting it? Didn't get it? Listen to the last one example. You'll get something. Less than CF, the last one. Less than 6. Less than 6, the observed values are 5, 4 and 3. Their corresponding frequencies are 2, 5 and 3. Add all these frequencies here. 5 plus 2 plus 3. 10. Getting it? Now come, more than CF means what? More than 3. This 2 is the frequency for the observed value 3. What is the frequency of the observed value more than 3? More than 3 is 5 plus 3 plus 1. 9. 9 here. Right? What is more than CF of the observed value 4? Observed value 4. 3 plus 1, 4. What is more than CF of the observed value 5? 1. What is the more than CF of the observed value 6? Nothing. 0. So I have completed this less than CF column and more than CF column. With the help of this we can draw less than ogive curve and more than ogive curve. Let's see how. This x-axis will represent the observed value 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this will represent the frequency 4, 5, 6. When the observed value is 3, its corresponding frequency is 2. But when I am drawing this cumulative frequency, I have to represent y-axis by cumulative frequency. Let me change the base here. I say margin here. 2, 4, 8, 10, 12, 14. Right? See, when the observed value is 3, its corresponding CF is 0. So you have to plot as 3 and 0, which is this one point only. Right? When you have to plot for this observed value 4, when you are going to draw less than CF, you have to plot the CF as 2. So you have to plot as 4, 2. 4, 2 is, yeah. For the next figure, 5, 7. 5, 7 is somewhere here. And then 6, 10. 6, 10. You have to join all this here. Free-handed. This will be called as less than ogive curve. This is what? Less than ogive curve here. Getting it? Less than ogive curve here. What about more than ogive curve? More than 3, CF is 9. So more than 3, CF is 9. More than 4, CF is 4. More than 4, CF is 4. More than 5, CF is 1. More than 5, CF is 1. And more than 6, CF is 0. More than 6, CF is 0. Join all these points here. Getting it? This is what? More than ogive curve. Getting it? Now, as in the case of histogram, histogram was used to calculate what? Mode. Here, you have to find out this intersection point. This intersection point represents what? Median. The intersection point between less than ogive curve and more than ogive curve is what? Median. Getting it? So, median is calculated by the following diagram. 1. A. Histogram. B. Frequency polygon. C. Ogive curve. D. None of the above. Answer should be ogive curves. Which of the following is used to calculate mode? Histogram. Right? The more important question between these two, I say one more important question will be, which of the following does not have any graphical method of representation? Mean, median, mode, none of them. Mean. Because mode can be represented by histogram, median can be represented by ogive curve, mean doesn't have any graphical representation. Getting it? Very important questions here. So in doubt in this one, less than ogive curve, more than ogive curve, and the intersection point is called median. Done? Right? Fine. So we'll go for break for 10 minutes.